The Celtic Exchange, a fresh insight on Celtic Football Club.
In less time than it takes to boil the kettle, DAIZEN Maeda opened his account for Celtic with a strike after just 3 minutes 37 seconds. Not to be outdone, his countryman Reo Hatate then went on to pick up the Man of the Match award with a dazzling all-round display from the centre of midfield, and we went on to comfortably take care of Shaun Maloney's Hibs. All in all, it was a brilliant return to action for Celtic and one which really sets down a marker for the second half of the season. This is episode 53 of the Celtic Exchange Weekly. This is Tino, and this week I'm joined by James and Sinky to cover all things Celtic. James, a magic night under the floodlights. What stood out for you?
Hatate. Getting the football back was a big thing. The anticipation for yesterday was, really high amongst the fans, and great to get back under the lights, all that stuff. Hatate just stood out the whole game. Everything he did, so calm, composed. He looks like he's going to bring a totally different dimension to us for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Sinky, solid debuts from all three Japanese guys, I'd say. So obviously, Hatate, man of the match, Maeda doing his thing early bells, and I think Guchi done okay when he came on. But that, in addition to Jota's return, a clean sheet. Good night's work, eh?
It was a great night's work. One of the highlights for me was Big Vickers. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. Great to be back at Park Paradise under the disco lights on a Monday night. That was good. And yeah, the new boys done well. Guchi, never really seen enough of him, and I'm sure we will see over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, pretty happy with last night's viewing.
Got to be. What else would you be doing on Monday night?
Watching Monday Night Football.
Fair enough. I think you're right about Carter-Vickers. In a good way, I think he looks like he's in second gear. He just doesn't look he's breaking sweat, and he's just very, very comfy there. And he kind of goes under the radar. He's not going to make headlines the way a Jota or Maeda, Kyogo, any of these guys do, but he's just such a steady influence at the back.
Yeah, and it's been a long time coming, having that kind of calmness, and that's a big thing. He's just so calm under pressure. He knows what he's doing. He handles his duels really well.
Yeah. So obviously last night was a return to SPFL action after a break of just over 3 weeks. Clearly the right call to bring the winter break forward. As you say, James, there was real anticipation in there, just, around a few narratives, the possibility of the debuts for the Japanese boys, Jota returning, as I'd mentioned, Sinky, and the full house under the lights, that just made for everything. So, there was lots to look forward to, but if you were nervous, don't need to worry. DAIZEN Maeda, 3 minutes 37, putting us all at ease. Yeah,
and just, an early goal is great in any game. We're always looking for that in case teams start to, get confident and stick to being defensive. But the fact that it was your debut guy, and for me, Hatate went a wee bit under the radar on the arrival. It was Maeda was catching all the headlines, so obviously it didn't quite work out that way in the game. But for Maeda to get a debut goal so early, it made you realise we've signed a player and we can relax and start to enjoy this game.
Definitely. I mean, Sinky, do you remember many others scoring as quickly as that on their first starts for Celtic? The obvious one's George Cadet.
I was going to say that.
Any more? I've got a couple, but any that spring
George Cadet's the big one. I think that knocked out the sound in the BBC Scotland. I'm pretty sure I was at that game. We never had, it was a Jock Steenstam, wasn't it, at the time? But George Cadet is the win for me. What you got?
So Cadet, that was against Aberdeen, a 5-0 win in April 2006. This isn't from my notes either, I just know these things. Barry Robson, he scored a free kick against Aberdeen, if you remember. He came off the bench.
First touch?
We won 5-1, first touch.
Just
right. Stuck it in the net. That was February 2008. There's Gary Mackay-Stephen, 38 seconds, v Thistle in February 2015. They're the ones I've noted. I believe as well, though, there was Chris Sutton against Dundee United, a scoring debut and a couple of other big moments, but what a way to make your mark. There's no better way to do it in front of a full Celtic Park.
As a striker as well, and a new striker, your first goal's really, really important. It just takes the pressure off you and you can relax a bit as well. But a dream debut, absolute dream debut.
I mean, some strikers go couple of games, 5 games, 10 games, and they get more nervous. He's not even gone 10 minutes. So he's done his job and then some. That was recorded as that's the 5,000th, easy for me to say, 5,000th goal to be scored in the SPL or the Scottish Premiership here as well. So it's a landmark goal. It's obviously a big one for Maeda to get. You'll have seen his wee celebration, the wee...
he's sat to his daughter, is that right?
Absolutely not.
Is it then?
Good guess though.
Is it then?
So apparently the celebration, it's an homage of sorts to a wee Japanese anime.
Oh, that's right.
A character called Anpan Man Can't believe you didn't know that, Cynthia. But
I never done my research for that one.
if you don't know now, you know. That's the kind of insight we provide, James. And it's clear that that's why the listeners keep coming back.
A lot of big anime fans out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll move on to Reo Hatate. As you'd mentioned, dream debut for all of these guys, but he did come. I'm not saying he came in under the radar. There was obviously a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement around the three guys, but I think Celtic themselves described him as a utility man, and that almost immediately kind of dampens your enthusiasm. You know, he's not a 10, he's not a 6, is he a left back? He would be wasted at left back. The guy is so much more, and he's a real box to box.
A utility man in Scottish terms isn't that kind of utility man?
Yeah,
if that's a utility man in Japan, get some mere bodies on here.
Yeah, give me all your utility guys. But he just showed. I actually think he's more than a 10. You know, he's real box to box. He's real energy. At times he was sitting deep alongside McGregor and zipping passes right and left and pinging them about. Then other times he's getting on the end of, you know, shots on goal and buzzing back and forward. I actually think, you know, it's early showings, early bells, but I think there's a real find there. Ange just touched on the fact that this kid is here to go to the very top of the game, and I think, not to dampen anyone's enthusiasm, but I think we've got to enjoy him while he's here, because he looks ambitious, and on first showing, he looks like he's got everything.
He looks like a player. You can tell. I mean, you don't want to put the expectation on him too much. I think everyone's jumped in the bandwagon in the last 24 hours, but you can tell, like, good players find space. He was finding pockets, 5 yards, one-touch passes, outside of the boot pings, the full shebang. So I think everyone's jumping in this bandwagon that we've got a player in their hands, and you're right, you know, we need to enjoy him, because potentially he goes to the World Cup, if we can keep him for that long, goes to the World Cup and then he's off. But I think we've got a real find on our hands here.
I mean, the World Cup's in November, so I hope we can keep him at least for a calendar year. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Miff made a good point a few weeks ago about how he rates a new player. I haven't now and again. And he talked about how a player takes a ball. And if you look at how Hatate takes a ball, it's class. And it's not just the passes. Quite a few times last night, he took it round the first defender, if you like, to create a bit more space for himself, to provide more options for his passes. So he's got that in his locker as well. Yeah,
I think his energy levels, amongst others, is this what stands him out from somebody similar-ish in terms of technical ability, and David Turnbull? You know, there's going to be a real question here. Turnbull's been very important to Celtic, and even over the last 12 months before Ange came in, he became a mainstay, you know, eventually under Neil Lennon. But he doesn't have that pace and that energy and that drive that Hatate's, you know, brought to the table. Does that mean that, you know, once everyone's fit and available, Turnbull may struggle to get back in?
Potentially. I mean, I was thinking about it last night. When we've got a fully fit squad to choose from, and I include Jota in that coming back from injury, the manager's got a bit of a headache. I mean, we've went from struggling with playing your youth players like your Dawsons and stuff like that to potentially having a really, really strong 11. And you know what? It's a good headache to have, but I mean, Turnbull's seen as probably one of Ange's favourites. He started a load of games for him. You quoted the stats of the week. But as well as that, Turnbull takes a lot of the set plays. He's involved in quite a lot of things, but energy levels, the way Ange wants to play, does Turnbull really fit that? And Hatate does. Hatate starts.
I think he definitely does, and it's, you know, we're one game in, but it's clear to see, you know, if you know football in any way, and we don't, so that's good. But, you know, just from the outside looking in, the guy is clearly a talent, and you can just see everything that he brings to the table. There was a wee fun clip, of course, when he found out he was man of the match. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've watched it about 20 times.
So I think James Forrest gave him the nudge. Obviously, he may struggle to hear over the tannoy what's been said. Jamesy Forrest gave him the nudge, and he was buzzing with it.
I think you're being very kind there. If you're going to a player in Celtic to explain to a Japanese guy who doesn't speak English, you don't pick James Forrest, mate. Come on.
I actually thought when both Maeda and Hatate were called off as subs, you know, came through the announcer, so John Ledwith, the announcer at Celtic Park, the two of them didn't realise they were coming off, because he's like, I'm coming off for Celtic after having made his debut, and they'll be going, what's this guy saying? And then when they see the numbers going up 41 and 38, they were off. But just really, really impressive all round. I mean, to touch back on Maeda, obviously his goal, huge impact very early on. He didn't have a lot of telling contributions, James. That aside, he ran the channels, he was energetic, he worked hard. His closing, you know, there's a lot of the stuff you don't see, I suppose, the closing down that he and Maeda and Forrest were doing, but he didn't get a lot of service, if we're being, you know, really honest about the way the game played out overall.
I think he got one piece of clean service from Rogic, got his goal. He had a header chance from a decent cross from Taylor. Mm-hmm. Apart from those two, I can't think of anything that was really clean cut where he was, you know, through on goal or a chance to shoot or anything. It was more about, the rest of his game was more about closing down. I mean, the keeper must have come really close more than once, you know.
Several times. Is he faster than Kyogo?
I think so.
I think he is. Do you know what? Like Miff touched on it a couple of weeks ago, he probably wanted to change his game slightly. I mean, he did drop in deep a couple of times, but with teams like Hibs, and Hibs are probably not the worst example, but with this low block, I think you talked about it last week as well, James, like the low block, he'll need to potentially change the way he plays, because playing that ball over the top is, I mean, a lot of the goals we watched on YouTube of him, he's clean through, he's burying it by the keeper. It's going to be a different kettle of fish in Scotland, wouldn't it?
Aye.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into this. It was for further down, but
Okay.
we'll catch this just now. Do you know the possession stats from last night? Have you seen
I
that?
heard Hibs had most of the possession.
Yeah, so very interestingly, Hibs had 53% possession to our 47%. It didn't feel like that at the time.
No, I was surprised when I saw that last night when I got home.
Yeah, so, you know, we certainly controlled the game.
It was passive, but it was very much it's obviously Shaun Maloney impact. I mean, I think he's still with Belgium, watching some of the Hibs stuff. They get caught.
He's got them playing out for the back.
He's got them big time.
gonna
Keeper playing short all the time out for the back, but a lot of it was side to side. And you know what? Watching Hibs compared to a few weeks ago, with like obviously during the Jack Ross tenure, they've completely changed the way they play. But yeah, I mean, they've obviously got the lion's share of possession, but they didn't really do much with it.
No.
Well, that's it. So the possession stats have been doing the rounds on Twitter today, and somebody pointed out, I'm not sure, maybe Dan Tosney, who follows us, pointed out that this may well be a tactic, at Celtic Park, allowing the opposition to an extent to have some possession, to maybe get a bit more confident, maybe to come out a wee bit. You know, and we know that Hibs are always going to come and play football, but less so with maybe a Dundee United, certainly a Livingston. And is it almost a kind of cat and mouse thing, kind of coax them out, and then when they're least expecting it, and when their low block has come up 5-10 yards, that's when you pounce, because Celtic were quite happy to let them have that passive possession, which is fine. They're not hurting us in the middle third and even a wee bit further forward, and they never really
It
threatened.
used to be the case when they crossed the halfway line. That's when you started to close. But we did let them have the ball quite a lot. And you know what it's like, sometimes you're playing with lower quality players, and I know I'm being disrespectful to Hibs, but sometimes you're better letting them have the ball, so you can go and take it off them potentially, or they'll make a mistake.
Our percentage of winning the ball back from them must have been very, very high, so they were confident in doing that, so why not let them create a gap at the back?
There was a lot of turnovers, and Maeda was involved with some of them, Hatate, Abada as well, you know, stealing the ball. The first goal came from
that's
all
right.
that. Just interestingly, in terms of that possession stat, so as I said, they're 53% Hibs to our 47%. The last time Celtic were out-possessioned, am I using that term?
Possessed.
I'm going for it.
Barca?
Possessed. Domestically, at least. I don't know the stats here. Barca was like 97% free, I think. Domestically, the last time was 2nd of April 2016 against Hearts. The kind of last days of the Ronnie Deila era. It was a game we won 3-1, but you know, that's a big chunk of possession. This is at Celtic Park, I believe, not so sure with other fixtures. So Alan Morrison on Twitter, a lot of folk will know him, he's Celtic by Numbers Twitter account, really good for those kind of stats and data. Tony McLaughlin as well, Celtic Trends. So lots of good information there for anyone that wants to follow those guys. But I just thought it was very interesting, and it was a change in tactics. It's certainly the first time that Ange Postecoglou Celtic have been, you know, haven't had the lion's share of possession. So is it showing maybe a change in his approach, maybe a change in the pragmatism?
Yeah, we spoke about it after the Livy draw at Parkhead, that maybe it was worth trialling something like that, because any team that wants to put 10 players, you know, along their 18-yard line, and you're constantly trying to break through that, it's nigh on impossible. So let them come forward a bit, create that gap. I think Ange's been watching that and saying, I need to do something different, and this might be it.
What I'm mindful of as well is, obviously we've just come back from an extended break, so maybe we've been quite tactical in our approach and saying, right, okay, don't do your tanking. I know we've got 5 subs now, but don't do your tanking. When they get to a certain stage, then you're hunting packs. So maybe that's a kind of change in tack until we get fully up to speed, because as you've seen in the second half, we kind of, like any Ange team, usually you get the last 15 to 10 minutes, we're done pretty much, because we put so much into the first half and after the second half, but it seemed to be a lot earlier last night in terms of the energy levels.
And I thought it was interesting. I'd have been quite sure he'd have made the changes on the hour mark, which he often does. He waited till about 70
odd minutes. I was quite surprised, especially with the 5 subs.
And also with the Japanese guys making their first start. I thought it'd have been, who are we to tell Ange what to do? But I thought it'd been, you know, a sensible thing to do, to give them the hour, allow them to bed in and then get that rest. But he's made his call. He may also be thinking what's down the line. We'll get to it later on in the show, but there's an Alloa game which is not an inconvenience, but it gets in the road of the league stuff, and it's on an artificial surface, so we'll catch all of that. But in terms of the energy levels, certainly the first half, you know, really, really strong. As I'd mentioned, you know, Maeda, Hatate, I don't think Abada had a particularly good game.
No,
but he was involved in both the goals. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he's kind of pressing and harrying. And Ange, it's clear that he's always wanted to do that. But it's one thing wanting to do something, but if you don't have the personnel, and you've got to argue that in certainly his early weeks and months, he didn't have, you can't do that. You know, you just, you know, everyone wants to play like Barcelona, but if you don't have the players of Barcelona, I mean Barcelona of old, of course.
I know they land
But generally speaking. So it just makes a huge difference to how we play and what options he's got.
Absolutely. And we've now got strength and depth rather than, we spoke about it before, the Leverkusen was the prime example. You're swapping quality for a real drop. That's just not the case anymore. And what you said earlier on about, what yourself think you're saying about a first 11, I think we've got a first 17, 18, and there's going to be interchanging within that. You're looking at Ralston Scales can count themselves unlucky not to start last night.
Yeah.
I think one of two, like I think Juranovic is the right pick at right back, I think Scales is the right pick at left back. But everyone will have been told, sometimes it'll be you, sometimes it'll be the other guy. We're going to need both of you to get through this season.
Yeah, I've no doubt there's an approach from Ange to say 11 guys don't win your leagues.
Mm-hmm.
You need, I mean, and obviously we spoke last week about the fact that Celtic have now used something like 36 players. You know, you include the 3 new signings that played last night. And his job, his challenge is to keep that squad harmonious. He needs to keep I don't know, if there's 25 guys that are always in and about, he needs to make them all believe they're as important as each other, whether you're Kyogo or Scales or whoever. And that's the kind of job Ange will do. He seems that kind of guy that he has the emotional intelligence and the people skills to just keep everybody happy.
Yeah, that's part of the manager's job, isn't it? To keep, you see it at Man United, with the reports down there, where they're not happy with the amount of players they've got, and it's hard to keep people happy. But for me as well, I would like to see some outgoings before the transfer window shuts, and I can give you 3 straight away: Bolingoli, Hatate and Barkey. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I was thinking about this morning. Out of the 3 guys, I can guarantee they're probably the top 6-7 earners at the club.
Yeah, I think the problem, for example, with Barkas is he's getting about 20k a week, so he's not moving on for less than
No,
that.
he's not going anywhere.
And why would you?
And Barry's just got a new contract, so...
Yeah, and I think that's just Celtic being smart, so you're not left without a bit of senior backup. We'll get to transfer stuff later on as well, Sinky. You're jumping the gun again.
Apologies.
Much like myself last week with Riley McGree.
How I peed by he played well last night. Good call, mate.
He's not put a
What,
foot on for
debut?
Celtic
And can I
so
just,
far.
unless he's got a scarf above his head, staring at the tunnel, he's no signs, right? Can we just...
We've been caught in that before.
That's true.
Yeah, anyway. Going back to last night, did we see our first choice midfield 3 there? McGregor sitting with Hatate and Rogic. And obviously, this is a lot based on who was fit and available. Turnbull we've covered. Is that the strongest 3 based on what we know and who we've seen?
For me, that's your strongest 3, yeah. It might change a wee bit depending on opposition, things like that. But yeah, I mean, that was a slick mid 3, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing Rangers tomorrow, Sinky Cup final tomorrow,
That's it.
is that who you're going
That's
with?
it, definitely. Big Tam had a quiet game, but that is, I mean, obviously that's the first look at Hatate, but now he's straight in there, isn't he? Because we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Who's your 11? And he's in there now.
100%.
It's his jersey to lose.
Yeah.
Who covers him when he drops out in a few weeks?
Nero.
As a question, so I put out a team pre-match last night. I put out what I thought, or yesterday afternoon, I put out what I thought was going to be the starting 11. The only one I got wrong was Jota. I thought he may have got the nod, but I got Jota wrong and Forrest came in. Everything else was correctly put in correct. We had lots of comments and different people suggesting this, that, and the next guy. Our good friend Kush was banging the drum for Nero to start, and I think he's done well and stuff. But I think when we're at full strength, Beaton doesn't start for us. Maybe his cover, as you say, but I don't think he fits.
He's probably one of his best seasons he's had since I can remember. He's never a centre half, but he's been great. I mean, the Leverkusen game it off, that was a big turning point, but he's very, very unlucky. He's not an Ange type pressing player. And he will play a part in the season, but he's no. I mean, I was beating the drum from the other week, but now looking at Mr. Hatate, that Nero's just a distant memory for me now.
Yeah, so long, Nero.
Bye-bye.
As well as Maeda and Hatate, so they obviously caught the headlines, and rightfully so, but there were, there's some real strong performances from various other players. So standouts for me, I thought Starfelt was excellent.
Yeah,
and we'll cover him in a wee second because he's taken a bit of flack. I thought Taylor was very good, and I'm not a fan, generally speaking. I thought particularly when he stepped into the midfield, through the inverted fullback role, he played some brilliant passes. He clipped the one over the top that led to the penalty. He fed one into Hatate at the start of the second half and various other passes. He had a couple of slack moments in the second half as well, but generally speaking, I thought he was good. And I also thought Juranovic has just slotted in there nicely.
He's just steady.
Technically, a very good footballer. But I mean, who else stood out for you?
As you mentioned, Starfelt, I thought it was excellent, especially the first half. Mentioned Vickers. I like Juranovic. Very still not the big debate about Ralston and Juranovic, but Juranovic for me has just come in. I like him as you see quite a lot of his clips. I like him as a person. He seems quite jovial and fun.
He's got personality.
And
about him,
if he fits in, and if you've got that an abundance, and you're a good player, that helps. But I mean, for me, that was the ones you've mentioned are the biggest standouts. Definitely.
I agreed on Juranovic completely. I watched closely when he takes his penalty kick. The ref blows the whistle, and he just waits.
Aye.
Second half, 2 seconds. Just everything else is bedlam around him. He just waits.
He mixes it up all the time as well. Like,
aye, he's got them all in the locker.
He's doing all sorts.
Did you call up an Enka?
Pancetta. I'm making my dinner. Pancetta.
Speaking of jumping the car. So he's got them all in his locker and then some. But I think keepers are just guessing. Keepers through their goalkeeping coaches, on the iPads and different stuff, they get here's where this guy puts it. And with Harry Kane and stuff, you'd see like a trend, all in the bottom left or whatever. With this guy, there's one there, one dinked here.
Roof of the net.
Very hard to deal with, isn't it?
It is, and that just shows you how confident he is as a player in his own abilities. And he takes that's a confident guy that takes that moment to just let everything settle in his mind, pick his spot.
Yeah. It's got to be a bit of character with his celebration as well. He likes a bit of pizzazz.
Yeah. But yeah, talking about, going back to you mentioned about Taylor, it's quite interesting. A lot of the fans, you look at Twitter and stuff like that, he still gets a hard time. Like your ones that are getting a hard time are Taylor, Starfelt and Abada. They three seem to be the ones who are the focal point of negativity.
They did well last night. Bad at a poor game, but was impactful.
Back to some shooting practice, but he was involved in the 2 goals, so he's only 20-year-old.
You'll always get people who need somebody not to be happy with. Scapegoat, the malcontents that need to pick on someone. And despite, I think last night was just wholly positive, just lots to be excited about. Yep. But some people go, oh, that was great. But he was murder. He was poor, and it's like,
just enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, to touch on the Starfelt thing, you and I have spoke at length, James. He's taken a lot of stick, and fans were right to call out things where you think he's had a poor game or been short. For me, there feels like there's something a wee bit more to it at the moment in the media, like a bit of a vendetta for some reason. You made a suggestion that things are going pretty well at Celtic just now. There's a lot of positivity around the place. And are people saying, can we find a wee niggle here? Can one settle someday? Yeah. And I actually thought Starfelt came out and showed a bit of aggression and a bit of a point to prove last night.
He was really hungry. He was getting into things that he could maybe have sat back from, but he wanted to get in, claim it, and show the player he maybe can be. I'm on record as saying I'm not sure about him, and he might not be the long-term fix. But you can't pick a guy out who's in the stingiest league in the SPFL, who had a great game. I listened to Radio Scotland on the car home last night, and they just get horsed into him, and you're going, wait a minute, clean sheet, stingiest defence, had a great game. What's the point of that? There's just there's no logic to it unless you're just trying to pick a thread because you can't find anything that actually genuine.
Yeah, I mean, debating and discussing footballers is nothing new, and radio stations and others are right to do it, but it just feels there's something more to it.
Aye, but that's always been the case. It's always been the case when we're on the up. There's always someone who's ready to just knock you right back down again. It seems to be certain individuals and media outlets that like love it.
You call them out? You naming names?
I'm not going to name names.
I like it.
I'm not naming names.
Playing it safe.
Keeping it professional.
First time for everything.
I know exactly. But the 2 centre halves, what I really liked about them last night, the 2 of them, as James mentioned, they were aggressive. Every ball that went up in the air, it was their ball to win. But Starfelt, obviously when he's first came across, he's been quite apprehensive about not winning balls, but it seems to be, he's shown a lot of character and he seems to be growing in confidence. And like also, we want him to do well. Do you know what I mean? We want him to do well and we want him to kick on. And some players it takes longer to settle. But the signs been, I think it was the Hearts game. He had a really good game. He was man of the match in the Hearts game. And then last night it was another good showing. But you mentioned the midfield free. That's for me. That's Joe Hart, obviously, and that back four is probably your starting back four if the Rangers game was tomorrow.
I think so at this moment in time. As well as having a really decent game defensively, Starfelt also showed something going forward. He had the glancing header where Abada ended up crashing into the post. Yeah. Abada should have scored. He also had the assist, but he has put his hands on Hanlon, I think it was, assisted at the Carter-Vickers. But he's also shown a presence in the other box as well. We debate it, other Celtic media and podcasts debate it, but Julian being around, there's no doubt that it puts pressure on him. And actually, that's the benefit of having a competitive squad. Whether Julian comes back in or not remains to be seen. And, we've discussed our different opinions on him. But the fact that he's around and putting pressure on Starfelt, even on last night, shown alone, it shows that you're maybe getting a bit of something extra out of him. And that's got to be good across the park where we've got competition everywhere. You've
got Welsh and you've got Julian, so you've got competition for both places. And Ange isn't scared to mix it up. So you're right, competition is healthy.
Yeah.
Don't know how far away the big fella is, but you're right, it's probably up to his game knowing that he's in the background. You've got to remember, he's the most expensive centre-half I've ever paid money for.
Yeah.
He's getting to a good place. And it's good, you're right, it's just competition.
Yeah. James, you mentioned our stingy defence, in the record that we hold. So I think at the moment, after last night, the record remains at 12 goals conceded after 21 league games, the lowest in the league, which is impressive in itself. And I think out with that early scare with Kevin Nisbet, where he
buried that. I don't know how he's missed that.
And I think they just caught his cold there, and that could have changed the whole atmosphere because everyone was buzzing, and that was about 2.5 minutes in. That could have changed the whole
I'd have been confident
feeling.
we got it back if we'd dropped that goal.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have been great. You wouldn't have wanted that. But that aside, and we'd mentioned the possession stats for Hibs, Celtic very much controlled the game, and out with that chance, I didn't feel at any point we were going to concede.
No, not at all. But as I said, try to touch on at the start, the Hibs have... Maloney's obviously trying to put his identity on the team. They've changed the way they play. Usually they use Martin Boyle quite a lot more down the channels, and he causes you all sorts of problems with his pace. But you can see Maloney's changed the ethos of the team, trying to play it further back. But the only stat that matters, when we talk about possession, the only stat that matters is the score. So
yeah,
that's it.
So. Again, just in terms of the records, as I said, only 12 goals conceded. We're also unbeaten in 18 games domestically. So going way back to that 1-0 defeat at Livingston back on the 19th of September. As much as we've had a break there, generally speaking, we've just picked up where we left off. We're in good form and the players must be feeling good about themselves.
Yeah, picked up and taken it to a bit of a higher level, actually, So they've re-established the momentum we had, and we've created new dimensions in the team, much more positive. I find the slightly negative passing that was creeping in towards the end of that wee run, I didn't see as much of that at all last night. And against a team who were coming up to me and stuff like that. So yeah, confidence must be high.
Definitely. Sanky, you touched on the strength and depth in the squad, and in fact in recent weeks and months we've talked about how little depth we've had on the bench at times. There's been games for Ange, I think back to the early stuff, the Midtjylland and beyond, where Ange just hasn't had any options. The game's crying out for a change, and then you check yourself who's on the bench and you go, can't do that.
Stick with it.
There's no change to be had. That's all now turned on its head. So last night the bench consisted of Jota.
Good start.
That in itself is great stuff, and it was great to see him back in a fairly cameo type role, but what a quality guy to come off the bench. Guchi came in. I thought again done fairly about 10 minutes, hard to see too much, but fairly tidy. I thought Giakoumakis looked like a different animal than the one that we'd seen before. It looked like a lighter animal, which is good. Somebody on Twitter told me, so it must be true, that he's lost 8 kilos apparently in weight. So, but he did look sharper. He's strong and he's putting himself about. He's a completely different player to Kyogo and to Maeda, but he looked like he was there to try and impress last night. He done some really good work defensively. If you've seen that towards the end,
double tracking back,
some nice feet and found the goalie. And others on the bench, Mikey Johnson who came in, Tony Ralston who's been a revelation. That's just last night's bench. So how encouraging is it for Ange to have these options available to him? Should he needs to change it or freshen things up?
That is by far the strongest bench we've had, and as I mentioned, the 5 subs is a big difference. It gives you that opportunity to kind of change various positions and change shape and all that kind of stuff as well. But it's very, very encouraging to have all those options available, and not just options, like quality options. I mean, you're pretty, some of them are just pretty much, I know Giakoumakis is different because he's a different type of player, but you're pretty much like for like in terms of some of the quality. I mean, Ralston, Juranovic, you're looking at right backs, the quality's there, and it's not just the quantity. Having a big squad, you've got a bit of quality. There's James mentioned 17, 18 potential starting 11 players within on that bench as well.
Yeah. It means that you're not just making change for change's sake, it's exactly. Quality changes. I mean, just think, they were the options last night, and then that's before you've even added Riley McGree into the mix. So,
where was he last night?
I think they gave him a night off. But very genuinely, there are still guys to come back to add to that. So Kyogo, of course, the main man is still to come back. Julian, we've discussed. Turnbull, hopefully weeks rather than months in terms of his injury, according to Ange. Possibly even Karamoko Dembele. We'd love to see him
I'd hope so.
Make an impact. And all of a sudden, we just look very, very strong across the board.
Yeah, and really dynamic as well. There's a lot of pace, a lot of fitness, a lot of hunger in amongst those players as well. And see, you've got that alternating 18. the hunger never drops because you're thinking, I've got to keep my game up, or that guy's going to come right in and take my spot. That's maybe what we're seeing a wee bit of with Starfelt. You spoke about Julian japping the door on Starfelt, saying, well, I'm not going to make it a walkthrough for you. I'm going to make it difficult.
Exactly. Everyone wants to be part of this, think you don't? Nobody wants to drop out.
No, but even in the training as well. I mean, we've brought in the three Japanese guys and obviously the young Irish guy as well. But for the boys that have been there throughout the season, to see 3 players come in, not just players, quality players, and seeing them every day, that gives you a lift as well. You start to see like, all right, we're doing all right since the Livy game, as you mentioned. We've been doing really well, but to add quality to that just gives everybody a lift.
Exactly. McGregor has been out speaking and talking about the impact the guys have had in training, their quality, their energy, their enthusiasm, and good players encourage that competition. You don't rest in your laurels at a club like Celtic. You want to see new guys come in because it's good for the whole group. It kicks you all onto different levels. Nobody wants to be a regular part of a team that's not winning and competing, and you need to bring in new blood, particularly at Celtic. You're only as good as your last game, your last season, your last trophy. And I think the established guys, the McGregors, the Forrests, the Rodgic, they'll be turning around seeing these guys and thinking this is a real boost.
It's completely changed. You think about the ones we kept, obviously going for the 10 in a row stuff, the people that we kept that didn't want to be there. If you look at it now, we've got actual guys who genuinely want to be there, and they've probably seen, like some McGregors and the Forest, I've seen a big change in the dynamics, even the past year or so, for now back to last year. It's completely different.
Yeah, James, you mentioned there that the term hunger and desire, and it's clear that that's there in abundance with this team.
Yeah, and that just speaks to the manager. That's what he's created. I think he's also blown away the groups that existed under Lennon, and
cliques.
Yeah, he's got the team playing as a team and as a group, and yeah, the hunger is the biggest thing for me.
I think so. Just on that Kyogo news, so not to dwell too much on a slight negative, but Ange did provide an update this week, and the hamstring that he's picked up, the hamstring injury, does seem to be a wee bit worse than initially feared. So to quote Ange, he said, "It's fair to say he hasn't recovered from the injury. We're still getting advice on it. He's not likely to feature in the next couple of weeks at least. It could be longer. In terms of definite timeframes, we'll get more info during the week." So it's not great, and hopefully we'll get good news soon, but just pause and think for a minute of a front 3 of Kyogo, Maeda and Jota.
That's the three. That's the three.
How good will that be?
Do you know something like it's bad news, and he'll back when he's back. But if this was November, it'd been an absolute disaster. We're lucky we've got the recruits that they cover. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, fingers crossed. I mean, he's just that front 3 you've mentioned. That's tasty.
I mentioned that as much as he's been the star man, and he is the star man, Kyogo's the superstar here, you kind of forgot all about him last night in a good way.
Oh, whoa. Come on, you. Behave yourself.
But there was so much else going on, and Maeda stepping in, and just, as you say, Sinky, if Kyogo had missed that cup final and missed some of the games before it, we might have been talking about playing catch up in a big way just now. We're still behind, but there's so much positivity around. Kyogo will be back soon enough, and there's just so much to look forward to in terms of getting him back in.
Yeah, Maeda's shown he can score Kyogo goals like he did last night. So it's not like you're throwing someone on and saying, it's a totally different player, it's a real drop in quality, it's a less pacey striker. He's got a lot of Kyogo attributes. I want Kyogo back as soon as possible, but it's not the big drop that it once was.
Yeah, there's no big headache when you bring Maeda in for Kyogo, is there?
Absolutely not. And I know it's no like for like, but they'll still have the same impact. Different players, but Maeda's more than capable of sticking as you've seen last night against Hibs, more than capable of putting the ball in the back of the net. So if anyone wants to step up, Charles John.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we move on, I want to provide some details here of a competition we're running this week, where one of our YouTube viewers will have the chance to win the home shirt for this season with their choice of name and number on the back. Rio 41 might be a popular one at this time, but that'll be up to the winner. Regular followers of the Celtic Exchange will know that in the last couple of weeks we've started filming our weekly shows and now post them each week on YouTube. You might even be watching us on YouTube right now. So as we continue to increase our following there, all we need you to do this week to win with a chance of winning the shirt is number 1, subscribe to the Celtic Exchange YouTube channel. Number 2, like this episode. And number 3, leave a comment on any of the topics that we've discussed tonight's show. That's it, simple as that. And don't worry if you're already subscribed to our channel, liking the episode and leaving a comment will automatically enter you into the draw as well. So get your entries in, good luck to everyone taking part, and we'll announce the lucky winner during next week's episode. So let's get back to the show. So, James, the win against Hibs, that puts us within 3 points to the top of the table, at least at time of recording, and that in itself is a shift from anything we've seen last season. I think it was one of the biggest frustrations of the whole year, where we just didn't really apply any pressure at any time. We do have some tough games coming up. We've got Hearts next midweek at Tynecastle, then Dundee United at Celtic Park on the Saturday, before obviously the Rangers game on the 2nd of February. James, how important is it that we find that consistency between now and that game and, show that, I suppose, relentless side that we really need to stay in contention?
Yeah, so it's beyond consistency for me. It's more towards the latter part there, the relentlessness. Last night included to a certain degree. I think they could have turned it into a 4-5-0 last night. I thought Hibs came out and played a bit stronger in the second half. So in the cup games coming up, Hearts and United in particular, I really want to see us, just really take a team on and get some heavy scores on the board. The consistency obviously comes with that, but I want to see Celtic showing that they can really dominate a team.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sinky, what do you think the message from Ange will be to the players at this moment in time? Is it a case of blocking out the external noise and taking it a game at a time?
It's got to be. I mean, as fans, we know we can't afford any more slip-ups at all. We're on their coattails. So you mentioned last season it was a bit of a non-event by this point of the season. The message is just to keep going and just keep plugging away. I mean, against Hibs, James is right, it could have been 3-4. And I do believe if it was before the winter break, it would have been 3-4. I do think we gassed out a little bit, but the message is just to keep going. Big games coming up. Hearts is a massive, massive game. You know what it's like up there. I think we've only got 1,000 fans got to the game as well. So the old football cliche, it's one game at a time, but we can't afford any slip-ups at all. And then, so just to bit my point, any slip-ups up into the Glasgow derby, and then potentially we get the gap to 3, because I just can't see anyone doing us a turn at the moment against the other lot. So we really need to keep the consistency going and turn up in the second and beat them. Yeah,
as a club and as a team, all we can do is take care of our own business. A huge part of that, and something that you can control to an extent as a club through your sports science and stuff, but it's remaining injury free. So the game against Hibs, bizarrely, it's one of the few games in recent times where we've not picked up injuries. We've had all these soft tissue injuries and muscle injuries. Seemingly every game it was happening. Not sure if much has changed. There's been new guys introduced to the setup behind the scenes, but as well as getting the victory, it was also hugely important that we got through there injury free last night.
They've had a rest as well, though. I was
going to say, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. They've had a kind of mini close season there, so those injuries, the soft tissue injuries were picking up. It was because guys were playing.
They're relying on the same players
3 times a week.
Yep.
So that'll be part of it. So we now need to make sure the conditions there, that it doesn't repeat, it doesn't reoccur, and that we've got the squad to balance that out in terms of guys playing time.
Yeah, I mean the games are relentless. From here on in, it's midweek weekend. We're back in European action next month against Bodo Glimt. There's lots of football to be played, and I think Ange indicated as such in his post-match last night that there's so many guys will be involved. It certainly won't be 11, it won't be 15, it won't be 18, maybe 20 odd guys that, and maybe more, that play their part, over this next wee spell.
We've got a squad to handle that now. We never had that. We've got guys coming back. We've had a lot of hamstring injuries and stuff like that as well, but we've now got a squad to handle difficult situations where we spoke about Kyogo a minute ago. You lose someone like that, you're struggling, but now we've got people that come in like your Turnbull coming back, Beaton, stuff like that, and McCarthy. You've got a good strong body, a squad there.
So Kyogo was essential for the cup final. If the cup final was tomorrow, would it be essential?
That was the thing, we gambled with him. We rolled the dice for the cup final. It paid off on that occasion.
Great gamble.
But it did come back to bite us not long after with the St Johnstone game, where we gambled on him to an extent there, and it's put him out, for a longer period of time. But you're right, James, if the cup final's tomorrow and Kyogo's 50-50 or even 80-20 in his favour, you say, don't worry about it, we'll slot Maeda in.
Yeah, so some difference.
You've got options all around. I mean, even, I'll share this, there's a graphic doing the rounds on Twitter in terms of the squad depth, and just cover some of the sections, but there's so many options in so many areas. So even just, attacking midfield, you've now got Rogic, Turnbull and Hatate. Hatate is definitely, that's where he would feature rather than left back or anywhere utility. Left wingers, Jota, Maeda, Mikey Johnson. Forwards, Furuhashi, Giakoumakis, Johnny Kenny, to an extent Ayeti, but I think he'll be off. On the right, Abada, Forrest, maybe Dembele coming back in. That's just the forward positions, and there's so many more guys across the board. And the point we made earlier on, I think it really stacks up that nobody can rest on their laurels. It doesn't matter if you're Kyogo or even Callum McGregor. All these guys who would be absolute musts not so long ago, they now know that there's people waiting on them who won't reduce the quality, and they can, come in and take their position if they have a few off weeks.
Maybe Joe Hart.
Joe Hart is the only man that is safe as houses. But, you know, there's so many guys outfield that will be spurred on. As professionals, they'll be kicking on, but they know that Tom Rogic was guaranteed a game for such a long time. Now there's a bit more pressure on Tom Rogic. I don't think he was at his best last night.
Definitely not.
He set up the opener, but, you know, there's these chances for some guys. Ange will be trying to freshen up the squad. He'll give guys opportunities, and it could lead to guys
big
moving
time.
on.
But I think if you don't turn up in training as well, I've been looking at was it Urigide said that he was quoted about the training, how intense it was, and he basically said you need to turn up every single day to even get a look in. And that's a massive difference between when he was doing the championship.
That's standards.
It's standards, and if you don't, obviously the manager sees you every day, and if you're not reaching that standard, there's somebody else that can just come in and take your place.
Yeah, I think on you go.
Just on that, specifically on Rogic, having the not to be signed Riley McCree coming in was a challenge for Rogic there. Mm-hmm. That's now not there, and we've said we're not really looking for anyone else. That shows a wee bit of inconsistency in the scouting. Why are we going to sign him if we didn't want someone to put a wee bit of pressure on him?
The argument back on that is that apparently Ange's indicated that unless something special comes up, he wouldn't go for it. Maybe he's seen McCree as something
for the sake of it, but if we don't got any options out there that match up.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe he feels he doesn't really need cover there, but there was a wee opportunity to get this guy for a couple of million. The deal changed, and maybe he thought, well, that's fine, we'll let it go.
I'd like to see a wee bit of cover there, but like you say, if the right option comes along.
I mean, the chances are, my feeling is that Celtic aren't going to ask for a call off for the 2nd of February. You know, there's debate whether they can or not, depending on who gets called up. Kyogo's probably unlikely to get called up now, according to the Japan national manager. Remember his name, Sinky?
Nope,
neither do I. So the suggestion is that Kyogo won't get called up. Maeda, maybe. He's only got a couple of caps. Gucci's not played recently for the national team, and Hatate's yet to be fully capped. He's got Olympic caps, but he's not been fully capped. So there's a question whether these guys get called or not. One guy who definitely will get called off, of course, is Rogic. But again, you then have options. So if Rogic wasn't available to his last night, you could have shuffled the pack. You could have put, Beaton in or whatever else. Maybe Turnbull comes back for that game in 2nd of February, maybe not. But there's options across the board.
That's the biggest quality gap, though, we have in the squad. Everything else you say, that's kind of like for like or just a slight deviation. The gap from Rogic to Beaton is obviously a big drop. It almost changes the way you need to look at that game.
Yeah, so another 10 required, do you think?
McGregor, I don't know if you know. McGregor can do a 10 role.
Gucci sitting back
quite comfortably. So you've got that as an option as well. Don't you mentioned him when you were mentioning your forward guys, but he can sit in there and other guys can come in. You've got quite a few defensive midfielders.
McCarthy,
Beaton.
Yeah. Sorrow's out, I'm afraid.
Oh, sorry.
He's off.
He's long gone.
This will be a very interesting conversation a couple of weeks' time when we see who has moved on. I think, as you rightfully say, Sinky, there's some guys more obvious than others that they should be moving on for everybody's sake, if not their own playing time. So to get back to the schedule, before these league games, we've mentioned the Dundee United game, so the Hearts game, then the Dundee United game, and of course the Rangers game. We've got the Scottish Cup tie against Alloa Saturday night, 5:30 kickoff, which in itself is quite interesting. Saturday night football, but on an artificial surface, so not so good. So it's the 4th round of the Scottish Cup. Barry Ferguson's team at the Indoor Stadium. James, I would suggest that you want to be very careful with certain guys on that type of surface. Jota just coming back. No point risking Julian on that. Maybe a guy like James Forrest who's had different issues in recent times. Who do you think he'll leave out, or who do you think he'll bring in for such a game? How do you think he'll play it?
I think Jota in particular, guy coming back from injury. I don't know if Giacomakis comes into that a wee bit as well. Just coming back from injuries and a hard surface and things. I mean, I know it's lower league and stuff, but the plastic surfaces have got to go. If you want to play football, you need to play on grass. I don't know if he'll maybe give, is it Olauyemi,
the goalkeeper,
goalie?
The B team goalkeeper?
I don't know, is that a wee bit too risky?
I'd say it is a wee bit too risky. I think he's more likely to give Bain some game time in that.
But I think he's chapping the door. Mm-hmm. I think part of the confidence in the Bain signing is there's a really strong young keeper coming through, so maybe just not quite this game, or maybe just a bit too soon. I don't know if there's guys you can get time into. You want to give guys game time, but not in that pitch. So it's not like a normal game where you think, there's an opportunity to give someone a wee bit of run out.
It does create a dilemma, doesn't it? Because you want to give the trophy the respect it deserves, but you certainly wouldn't want to fall foul of any injuries. It's the last thing we need, given the injuries we've had so far this season.
No, and the surface is, it's just one of the ones, isn't it? Like I can understand the argument is the lower league teams need to have the surface to generate money for other revenues, people hire in the park and stuff like that. I mean, I think Johnson will come in. I think Mikey Johnson could potentially play there. But you like see your Jotas, you like say, I don't know if he'll play Forrest on that surface.
I wouldn't think so.
Nah, I wouldn't think so either. So I think he'll rein the changes. But I think you can't mix it up too much. You're right, you need to respect the competition, but you also need to respect the opposition to some respect as well. So I don't know, it's a hard one.
I think, yesterday we made a suggestion on what we thought the starting 11 was going to be. I wouldn't even know where to start.
I know. I was just
you
through my head.
You could have no idea. It could be very mixed. It could be Real Betis style lineup, or it could be 75% strong with a few fringe players. So we'll see. I mean, in terms of, we mentioned respecting the competition, how important is the Scottish Cup to you this season or not? Where do you rank that?
I'll be consistent on that. I'm not interested in anything but league.
But to the point where you would just put out any 11?
No, not at all. I mean, you want to go and win games, but when it starts to stretch out later in the competition, I'd be much happier to, take your pick. Is it Scottish Cup or league, if you were given the choice.
Yeah, but that isn't the choice, because that's not the way football works. So what if we get to a semi-final, fairly straightforward, we win the next 2-3 games, we win a semi-final. You happy enough to go out a semi-final when you've got the carrot of a season-ending May time cup final?
No, and you never would. You want to win every game, and I think now we're starting to see a squad that can rotate and win games without dropping quality, retain that quality in the team. It's just not where my focus is at, is all.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there's no doubt the league is the be-all and end-all, but you still want to be competitive and make sure you don't let yourself down anywhere.
No, absolutely. And the Scottish Cup's it's a great due in May.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? After last season, and obviously we won the League Cup, every opportunity to win something and be successful. But obviously Celtic, that's part of the ethos of the club. But yeah, obviously we talk about priorities. The league's the main priority, but the Scottish Cups for me is important. It's important to the fans.
Where it is interesting and important is there's only one team in Scotland can win the treble this year.
Yeah,
and Ange's maiden year when he was written off early in the season, so that would be pretty special.
That was Paddy's call. Paddy, I think Paddy's got us down for a quadruple actually. He's got his got his clinching that Europa Conference League as well. So yeah, you can't win a quadruple without a Scottish Cup, so we'll need to add that into the mix. But yeah, I think Celtic will be respectful of Alloa. I think the team will be reasonably strong and certainly strong enough to take care of that. So we'll see how Saturday night football plays out. Just to return to the transfer window, so we're recording at this moment on 18th of January, so less than 2 weeks to go over the window. In his media conference last week, Andrew's quite firm. He's actually quite strong on it, the fact that he's not speaking to any targets and anything else is just fabrication, in other words, of that ilk. That may change, of course. You might lose a couple of guys, which maybe free up some wages. You might lose Barkas and need to get somebody more senior. Ayeti maybe frees up some wages. So that could change the lie of the land. And as I'd mentioned with somebody like Riley McGree, doesn't matter, he's gone. Somebody special may come along. And maybe it's back out in Asia, or might be, we've been linked with various guys, in that part of the world. So there could be somebody that comes along. But certainly at this moment in time, he's indicating there's no more activity planned. Where would you be at with that, Sinky? How would your confidence be if you know that's what you've got for the remainder of the season?
I'd be alright with it. Looking at the Hibs game and looking at the squad we spoke about in good detail, I would be alright with that at this moment in time. You're right, but it really depends on outgoings. But this is one of the first transfer windows I can remember when we've not had key players linked to clubs around Europe or down south. I can't recall. Obviously I keep an eye on the rumour mill, but there's been nothing I've seen for us to be losing any key players to go out and have to replace. It's just kind of the dead wood. That's what we need to do.
Because the thing is, the guys that we've brought in, they're just in.
Aye.
More or less the guys that start the games for us. They're brand new. McGregor's obviously existing. Guys like McGregor's committed to Rogic, James Forrest. These guys aren't going anywhere.
The big one for me is getting Jota in a CCV. That would just be the perfect transfer window. That would be the one.
I think that should be done as a with the transfer window. I'm looking at signings. Is that obviously it'd be great to get those guys signed up. It's essential we get those guys signed up to look at building this team going forward. They kind of, and I don't doubt that Michael Nicholson and others are spending most of their time this week and the start of next on moving these guys on, the guys who are not going to play, because it's a frustration. And football squads aren't an exact science because it's people you're dealing with. So in the Barkas situation, you're saying, I want you to leave. He's like, well, I've got 20 grand a week, don't be daft. So you've got 4, maybe 5 guys there that Ange knows aren't going to feature in his squad. And that's a bit of a frustration where he's like, I could get rid of those 4 or 5 and bring in 2 that I'm definitely going to use that would really augment the squad. So I'm sure they're all thinking along those lines. It's just a matter of we've got to release these guys first before we can bring guys in.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's, for all the noise at the start of the transfer window, or even before, when we, confirmed the Japanese guys, and then Johnny Kenny, I think, was confirmed last Saturday night. So that was the 8th of January. There's been no activity in or out since then, and that in itself is quite unusual. But I wonder if, in terms of the players out, that's the kind of stuff that happens in the dying embers of the window, the last 3 or 4 days. There often is. That's how agents work, and that's how they get the best
leverage
deal for their clients, and people are desperate for a striker, so maybe Ayeti gets a move somewhere, for example. But
they're so far out the equation. I know Ayeti's been injured and stuff like that, but they're not even in the window. They're not even, do you know what I mean? These clubs looking at them, but like, well, they've not kicked the ball for such a long time. I mean, Barkas, was it St Johnstone he played? Yeah. But they've no other club or potential suitors seen them play, so they're just going to, basically we done with Ayeti, we bought them based on a whim, basically.
Just roll out the YouTube clips and
exactly.
We'll see that.
Oh, exactly.
I think that's where work teams do get desperate, and I'm trying to think where an Ayeti ends up beyond Celtic. I'm not entirely sure.
But would he even pass a fitness test just now?
Well, he wouldn't.
No.
That's the thing. People would take a gamble on the fact that he may,
you may be a loan to sell.
Yeah, something like that. But he knows, and all these players know, and their agents certainly know how it works. They become more valuable the closer to the bumper you get. So it might be that we're trying to move guys on while being mindful of the fact that, as you say, James, players are human beings and they've signed contracts and they may want to enjoy their 20 grand a week. That would be nice. So that might be the case that we do see a flurry of activity towards the end of the window. But to ask the same question I asked to Sinky, in terms of incomings, are you happy enough if we don't bring anyone else in?
Yeah, like I said last week, that the competition at the back is good enough at the moment. I don't think it's perfect. I think it's good enough, and I think it can take us through the season. I suppose the Riley McCree one, as I mentioned earlier on, there's maybe a wee bit of a desire for Manchester to have a little bit more of a Rogic type in there to provide that competition. Outside of that, who could you sign that you were going to play? Where would they play? There's so much depth there now.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, we've mentioned left back a few times, and if a superstar came along, but generally speaking, really, it need to be somebody special to come on up front, left wing, right wing, midfield now.
But even at that, we had Ralston and Janovic in either, obviously, alternative sides. It worked. It wasn't the worst. It wasn't the worst situation. So you've got that as well. I know you're wanting 2 players for each position, but we've got that flexibility. We can just move across. I know it's no natural positions, but it's an option.
Definitely. I mean, people mentioned it was going to take Ange 2, 3, maybe 4 windows to get this right. And whilst I don't believe, it'd be naive to sit here at this moment in time and say we're absolutely there, but we've certainly made a right dent in it, haven't we? And, we're close to being what you'd be. Fans are never happy. You get greedy, you want more, but I would say, generally speaking, across the board, people are quite satisfied with where we are just now.
Yeah, but it just is. Look to your weakest point, and you're going, it's not awful, And if, like you say, you take me back just 6 months ago, you'd be going, where to start,
Usually, right, when we recruit 5 players, one will be good. You're looking at one
20% strike.
Honestly, if one, you get the project signings and stuff like that, but with the job, I mean, that's him. Andrew's quoted one. He's 6 months in, and the job that he's done, the 2 windows, has been nothing short of phenomenal.
Yeah, it's been remarkable. There's an irony here. Just I've mentioned there's not been much of anything in terms of ins and outs. There is an irony that there actually is an exit that's happened in the shape of Leigh Griffiths. Obviously, I don't know if the club have officially confirmed it, but the suggestion is
it's confirmed.
The party's over there. Ironically, he was one of Ange's first signings, first signings, inverted commas, because he had to sign due to the lack of strength. He had to say, I need some sort of recognised number 9, and we signed him in the deal, and we know how that all unravelled. He's now moved on. It's almost symbolic, to get a bit, dreamy about it all, by the fact that he came in, and it almost symbolises the turnaround here, that he now exits at a time where Celtic have just really found where they are, and he just doesn't fit into this Celtic team. And anyone who carries the kind of baggage he does, or the kind of stuff that goes with it, they're not going to fit his system.
Your man next is said that at the very, very start, and I remember you saying it, Ange won't suffer fools gladly at all. Obviously he signed Griffiths, but that was needs must at the time. But he got his number eventually, and that's the end of it. But James, you definitely did. You did say that, and if your face doesn't fit and you're not pulling your weight, and Griffiths, it's a shame because there was a player in there, and a massive, he was when Ronnie Dyer and stuff like that, and then obviously Rodgers at the start of Rodgers' tenure, he was fantastic. He was unplayable at times, and it just his decline's been it's a bit sad. But
it is. I mean,
football.
He's one of a very limited number of Celtic players that have scored over 100 goals. I need to check. It's something like 20 odd players, maybe less. I need to check on that. But he scored 123 goals in 261 games with the club. He's won lots of trophies, but it's also a case of what might have been. Nobody likes to see unfulfilled potential and talent, and he's sold himself a bit short, hasn't he?
Absolutely. And I was a huge fan of Griffiths over years. I don't know if football's going to develop in a way that flawed talent like that gets recognised early, and a bit more of a mental health package goes around the guy to make sure he can fulfil his potential. Maybe. Because there's no doubt it was there. But to your point about Urhoghide earlier on saying you need to be there every day, absolutely slamming it. Can you see Griffiths doing that day in, day out in training? Sticking his. He's doing a 10k in his car and sending it to the office.
The ability's great, but if you look at the attitude, it doesn't make any real difference.
Yeah. Exactly that. You can have all the talent in the world, but you need so much more to make it as a footballer. That desire, that work rate, and a wee bit of luck as well. But you need to bring more to the party than just a wand of a left foot.
But it seemed the 80s. Dundee was kind of last chance saloon for him, and he could even see the season out there. So
yeah, I don't know if they're even going to keep him on in it. It looks like he's kind of let James McPake down as well. He's a mate of his, giving him a chance, and that's that. But yeah, it's probably a disappointing end all round. Leigh Griffiths, the club, the fans, just in the way that's all fizzled out. But he moves on. Andrew's very respectful in his comments and kind of wishes him all the best. Yeah. So James, as we start to wrap things up for today, have you any final thoughts for this week's episode?
Just great to have football back. Said this is the start of the season. We look forward to every single game that's come our way. So the Alloa game is an interruption in the flow in the league, but it's in a bit of intrigue itself as well. I thought it was good. There was an option they could have taken the game away somewhere else for a bigger crowd. And is it Mike Mulroney? Is that the right guy?
I think so. Alloa,
he said he wants to keep it in Alloa for the town. Get crowds in there, get them into the pubs and all that kind of stuff. So it's a lower team away in the Scottish Cup, so that's good fun. Saturday night 5:30 football and stuff like that. Obviously nice and quiet for January for us, but for others they can have a good time.
Yeah,
and then back into the league in 2 really big games against Hearts and United. So yeah, just really enjoying it all. Be interesting to see if any exits come in the next 5, 10, 15 days, and then if we could sign just one more.
Just one more.
Greedy.
Being that greedy fan.
He's greedy. I always want more.
James greedy.
Thank you. Before you let you go up the road for your pancetta, any final thoughts for the listeners? Are you looking forward to Saturday night football?
Do you know something? Actually, it'll be interesting to see the lineup. As you mentioned, it's really hard to pick that one. But every game you're looking forward to now. Hibs, loads of positives, but I do believe we're still in second gear coming back for the break. Hearts, Dundee United, and then the big one. So loads to look forward to. It's great to get the boys their debuts. I think there's a lot more to come. Definitely a lot more to come.
100%. So version 2.0 of Ange Postecoglou's Celtic is well and truly up and running, and if the performance against Hibs is anything to go by, we can now look forward to an exciting and entertaining second half of the campaign. Kyogo brightened up the first few months of the season, and it looks like his countrymen are here to provide more of the same. Thanks to James and Sinky for joining me in today's show, and of course our thanks to you for continuing to follow and support the Celtic Exchange. Please continue to do so by liking, subscribing and sharing this episode far and wide with your Celtic network. It really makes a big difference to what we do. But in the meantime, and as always, thanks for tuning in.